No contact apprehension is causing quite a stir in Metro Manila at the moment as more and more cities are rolling out the program. But there are a lot of concerns being raised about it, and here are 3 of them. Before we jump into this, let's just be clear. NCAP itself as an idea is really good. We should strive to replace human enforcers on the streets with machines for a number of reasons. Of course, I don't need to tell you that there can always be a bit of, shall we call it, friction between motorists and enforcers on the street. And having humans work in this kind of environment is deeply unhealthy. I feel sorry for those guys out there standing in these emissions 8 hours a day. That's not good. They shouldn't be there. So if you look at other cities all around the world like Singapore or London, of course they don't have enforcers on every junction because they have been replaced with systems similar to NCAP. So as an idea, as a project, it's a good thing. It's maybe not the right time to bring it into Manila just yet. So with that being said, the first big concern that we have heard about NCAP is that Metro Manila is simply not ready for it. And with this I mean everything from the road engineering to the lane markings to the traffic signs and everything around it. For something like NCAP to really work, it needs a fair and consistent environment in which it can function. And this is crucial that it's fair and consistent. What I mean is we as motorists are expected to follow a set of rules. If we break the set of rules, we get a violation from the camera. However, at the moment, the rules are simply too all over the place. It is almost impossible in places to be a law-abiding motorist on our roads and the metro here, because the lane markings are inconsistent, signs are missing, there are various different, I've seen signs that double as adverts, and there are so many concerns. Some areas don't even have sidewalks, and the list goes on and on and on. So while Metro Manila is certainly getting better in this regard, just look at BGC, that's a modern city, that's much more standardized, much more like it should be, like a Singapore. The rest of the place just isn't there yet, and to bring it in now, when it's still, without wanting to be disrespectful, simply organized chaos out there mostly, that's not fair on the motorist, and I think that would be also very counterproductive, because the powers that be need us motorists to be on their side for this to work. Now, if we can't really, even if we want to, stick to the rules because everything's so all over the place, that's going to turn the public against it, and that's going to make a mockery of the whole system, and it's not going to have that positive effect that it certainly can have. So the biggest concern that we've really heard, and we've heard too many points to list here, is that Metro Manila, as a road environment we move in, is not ready for NCAP. The second point we've heard a lot is that the fines are simply way too high. I've seen official figures of something like 2,000 pesos for first violation, going up to 5,000 pesos for repeat offenders. That's an insane amount of money for minor traffic violations if you think about it. Now, of course, if you live in Forbes Park and you have a chauffeur to drive you around, then you don't care about that kind of money, 2, 3, 5K, whatever, right? But if you're a jeepney driver, an Angkas rider, or just an office worker who needs his or her car to get to work and back every day, getting hit with 1, 2, or 3 of those fines a month, that has a serious financial impact. And as we mentioned in point number 1, it's chaotic out there. You may just get caught out and get a fine, incorrectly, and there's nothing you can do. You have to, you can appeal, but good luck. In most cases, you may still end up having to pay it. And that's just not fair on the people who, and this is very sad, I really find this sad and upsetting, who once again, it's the lowest earners and the most vulnerable who get hit the hardest with this by simply giving these huge fines. Now, not wanting to sound too negative, here's a constructive bit of criticism. Why don't the powers that be consider bringing in what is known as the Scandinavian model? In most Scandinavian countries, when you get a traffic ticket, the amount you have to pay is tied to your income. So if you have a low income or if you're unemployed, your fine will be very, very low. It will be in relation to your income. But if you're a millionaire or someone from Forbes Park, your fine will be pretty high. And that's fair, because you both get hit in the pocket with the same sort of impact. That would be a much fairer system here than just hammering everyone with these huge fines, especially as thousands of people in the metro, and more than ever before, make their living by driving and riding on the roads. They don't have a choice. And they are more of a risk, and they are a lower income class, so they get hit the hardest. That's not fair. So let's look at those fines. Let's maybe bring in the Scandinavian model that makes it fairer, because it's okay to have fines for violations, otherwise you wouldn't care about them, right? But let's look at them and try and make it fairer, and maybe do the Scandinavian model, because just hitting everyone with these huge fines, it's not fair and it's just not right. Finally, the third point and concern that we have, and that is one I think has not gotten the attention yet that it deserves, is that of privacy. NCAP at its core is nothing but mass surveillance. The cameras have to run 24/7 to do their job. They record all the time, and when the car comes through and does something wrong, it records that clip and then off it goes and gives you a ticket. However, these kind of systems, they are open to abuse. You just need to look at places like the UK, where NCAP has been known as ANPR, Automatic Number Plate Recognition, for many, many years. It's been brought in initially for the same reasons as a traffic tool and to check for insurance and tax dodgers. And then the police realized that, hey, if we link up all these cameras, we can track people. And that's exactly what they're doing now. Now, you might not say, hey, Frank, the police tracking criminals, that's a good thing. Yes and no. The problem is that this can be and has been abused. I'm not saying it has happened here, but there is a risk, and it has happened in other countries. Police in the UK have in the past been accused of having shadowy databases, which are at least in a legal grey area, which means you don't know who has access to your data, you don't know why they have access to it, or what they do with it, or where it is stored, and that's concerning. Your data is very valuable. You should be careful with it. And of course, I don't need to tell you that there is potential for abuse. For example, for unscrupulous governments to track political opponents all across the city, have movement profiles, where is my enemy? And if you want to see the extreme part of this, all you have to do is look at China and the level of street surveillance that they have. We're not there yet, of course, but I think we should be concerned and we should scrutinize more what data is captured, how it is captured and stored, who has access to it, and for what can this data be used and by whom. Because these are very crucial things going forward. When all these cities now link up their systems, we need to be sure that our data is treated with the care and the attention and the restrictions that it deserves. So these were just 3 of the points that we've heard from many more concerns about NCAP. And like we said at the start, NCAP as a concept is good. And I am convinced, and you will laugh at me about this, I know you will, but I'm convinced that one day in the future, Manila will just be like Singapore, and it will just be like London, and it will just be like Munich. Everyone will stick to the traffic rules, everything will be nice and orderly. It will come. It's just not there yet. It's on the way and it's getting better, but it's just not there yet. And especially now coming out of the pandemic, maybe the powers that be should at least gently rethink their approach, make it a little fairer, gentler, and learn to crawl before we learn to run. Because at the moment, this city, from what we've heard, it's not our words, it's everyone out there who's telling us this city doesn't seem ready for something like NCAP.